Kia ora koutou, ko Max Takuingoa. So I am, as you've heard, from Digital Science, so I hope you all enjoyed lunch, which we sponsored. It's a while ago now, so I imagine you're probably getting quite excited about afternoon tea, so I will try not to take too long. The other caveat for my presentation is it is quite different to some of the more science-based, technological, clever things that you've been hearing. It is a sponsors talk, so please forgive me, but we were hoping just to give you a little bit more information about who we are and what we do, because we are a big supporter of the eResearch conferences here and in Australia, and I think often people are like, who are you guys? But you don't necessarily know who we are, but you may well be using our products. Okay, so Digital Science. So we are quite a large company. We are multinational. There are, I think, 3 of us based in New Zealand, but I think I am officially the most remote employee, being in Christchurch full-time. And we have a huge range of products. So the thing about our products is they're really designed to support researchers and the research endeavour. A lot of our products are spun out from researchers who have created various solutions as part of their work. We have something about 12 products, solutions, but we have a couple of really important flagship ones, which are the ones I will be talking to you about today. And so because we have this a very academic mindset, we have a great support of innovation, change, supporting new methods in research, and particularly open research and fair research. So really like the open research movement. So open access. I imagine I probably don't need to talk too much about this, because hopefully in this audience you will have a very good idea of what it is, and if you don't, you will have by the end of the next couple of days. So open access is really about making sure that the research outputs that are produced as part of research are available to the broader community. So particularly important for research that is funded by government, because it's about public good work, so making sure that the findings of research are available to others to use and to build on. So that includes 2 main things. So the publications, so traditionally publications have been behind paywalls and not everyone has the opportunity to read them, even if they were that way inclined. But also the data, which is increasingly becoming more important, so that people can access data and use it for more work where possible. So we've got a definition of open access, but I think we all probably understand that well enough. And the reason why it is a big deal, firstly, it's a good thing to do to make sure that the work that taxpayers are paying for is made available for others to understand and use where possible. But also many governments and funders are beginning to mandate that this is a requirement. So this has been a growing movement in the UK for well over a decade now, and is now inside our MBIE open access policy. So it is recommended that if you are being funded by MBIE, which is one of our main research funders in New Zealand, that you should be making sure that that work is available to others to use. So there's a growing demand for publishing in ways that are open access, and there are a number of ways to do that, and you can talk to your librarians if you need more information about some of those different pathways. But what we like to do, one of our key things that we do as part of our range of solutions is we have two flagship products, Symplectic Elements and Figshare. So you may have seen Figshare already, did feature in Ben's, you had a Figshare up on there at one point. So Symplectic Elements, possibly universities in the audience, except for Otago, will be familiar with this, because all the universities in New Zealand have it, except for Otago. So this is, sorry Kate, I had to say it. So Symplectic Elements is a research management system. So the idea behind Elements is that it collates a range of information from various places. Where possible, we try and bring it in from a source or via some authoritative source online, mainly so that our researchers don't have to re-enter this information. So getting publications from the publishers like Scopus or Web of Science, which most organisations, universities will have subscriptions to already, or bringing it in from aggregators of information like Crossref or Dimensions, or enabling researchers to put that information in there themselves, particularly for some of the research areas that are in less traditional spaces who won't have good curation services available, so creative arts, for example. And so bringing all this data together in a system where it's managed and it forms an important data set for the university to understand what research is being undertaken and what's happening, but also making that data available for other purposes. I should probably say information or metadata rather than data, because obviously there's a difference from the actual research data here. So this is all about collating this information and then using it for things like, the PBRF, which is why probably most of our universities have it in the first place, and but also putting together CVs, running public profile websites, all of those kinds of things. Our other flagship product is Figshare, which is a flexible repository solution, and it came out of looking for a way for people to share things that aren't the standard repository outputs, so not journal articles or conference papers, but being able to share a range of other things like media or figures, for example, hence the name Figshare. It was originally for sharing figures that weren't included in publications. So those two together form a really nice pair of tools that can be used to do some cool things, which I'm going to talk to you about today. So one of the great things about Figshare is that it has a huge range of, it accepts a huge range of file types, and it also allows you to browse them and view them in browser, which is really cool. So you can see images rendered, you can see 3D models, you can see map files, GIS, all sorts of cool stuff, and you can build collections and you can profile them in a nice way that's a little bit probably richer for a user than a traditional sort of output repository. And when teamed with elements, it gives a lot of advantages in terms of managing that process, giving you better open access monitoring, giving you better reporting, etc. Okay, so one of the key things about this pairing is that it's a bi-directional integration. So these were originally two separate solutions that are both within digital science, and they've always been, they're not natively integrated, but they have been co-developed in a way where they're both looking at each other and trying to make sure that works better, to the point where now this year we will be undertaking a major solutions and upgrade process for Figshare, so looking at the old metadata model, so some of you may be interested to know about this, and looking at some of the things that our clients have been asking for us to change for quite a while. So that's quite exciting, but will be a big piece of work. But this bi-directional integration is really good because it allows you to deposit your items into either system and send it the other way. So I remember when I first heard that, as a former client, I kind of thought, well, yeah, that's not that exciting. I don't really understand the benefit of it until you start understanding how you might apply that to your own use case. And now I can see the benefit. So often we will have people putting their more traditional journal articles or chapters into Elements and sending it to Figshare. But if you're more in the non-traditional space, putting your information into Figshare and then sending it back to Elements as a data source. So it gives people the option to think about how they ingest their information, but also allowing those to flow and to make sure that, particularly if you're going through Figshare, you can have your institutional database updated as well and then use that information for other purposes. So we've got the bi-directional integration. Within Elements, we have an open access monitoring tool, so it allows you to track, if you're trying to track your engagement with open access, look at linking your outputs to funders, etc. There are ways to do that. You can use it and reuse it in your profiles, but also with Figshare you can start to manage the files, etc. And there are there's specialist functionality within that you can also use to build your collections, etc. So, in terms of how we look after publications, so there is a split, as I mentioned earlier, between traditional publications and data sets. And so in terms of publications, I guess the main thing is that we've got some challenges in how we help fix that. I think the biggest thing is that we can pull in data from other places, which just simplifies the process. If we have a look at, here's some screenshots of our deposit page. One of the things that is really nice is that we can offer a range of information to our users. So I think some of you may have been in that situation where you've been asked to deposit something and you don't know what kind of agreement you are able to share this under. Is it green OA? Is it open? Is it gold? What does the journal allow you to do? So we connect in with Sherpa or JISC, I guess, as it's now becoming, and can offer the advice from the publisher directly within the system, but we also have the ability for you as an organisation to offer your own advice and point your users to your own resources as you need to, depending on what your policies are, which is great. And then obviously as you move through the deposit process, depending on some of the buttons you pushed, as our first speaker said, you will get other options which will help guide your users through the process. And of course, you can send it through to Figshare, which means that it can be discoverable, it can be open, people can access the information, you can tag it to other outputs, you can tag it to other resources. It's nice and easy. So, I do like flowcharts, as one of my colleagues pointed out to me. This one is just really the key here is that this is one of the pathways you can go through. If you start in Elements, you can bring in your output directly from source. You can then choose to deposit a file, and you can supply embargoes, and then you can send it off through the workflow that we would work with you or your institution when you're implementing to get it right to your business requirements. So it looks simple, but there are a lot of permutations on this based on how people have decided they want to manage their outputs. Whereas looking at data, I'm not really sure how much time I'm taking of it, so so I don't expect to delay you for afternoon tea. So when it comes to data, this is where things get a little bit trickier. As you all know, if you've been working on data management plans or looking at ways of storing data, we know that making data available, again, is becoming increasingly important because more funders are requiring that. This is a 30% statistic about funders requiring archiving. This was from last year. I could not find any more up-to-date versions of this because the Sherpa website is under a bit of an update because of its merger or takeover by JISC. So we know it will be bigger than that. We know there's definitely policy for 30%, but we know it's encouraged and that a lot of organisations are looking at their own policies for doing this. And we heard earlier from Jeanette that policy is one of the ways that we really help drive change within our organisations. And we can also see from looking at the number of data sets that are in our Figshare.com. So Figshare.com is our free version. Anyone is welcome to go in, create an account and load things into Figshare.com. You don't have to use an institutional version. If your organisation has an institutional version, you will get more benefit from that. But we still allow people to load information into Figshare and share it openly. So we can see that data sets are becoming more and more common and that there is a real drive for it. But we know that with this drive comes a lot of challenges, particularly around understanding what the process should be, understanding your institution's policy, if there is a policy, and then the infrastructure that goes along with that. So, in terms of just some contextual filler in the presentation. So these are some a few snips from some comments that were made on social media from researchers saying, you know, now I'm required to put my data somewhere. Where do I put it? What do I do? And that can be very confusing, obviously, particularly depending on where you're working. So in NIH, there are requirements about how that repository should function to be compliant. And nicely, some of the researchers are saying you just use Figshare, it's great, and it's also compliant with NIH, which is wonderful. But where we really want people to step in is the institutions, because there needs to be some guidance from institutions to, as part of this framework for research and how you support your researchers, making sure that you can offer them the right technology, offer them the right advice, make sure they've got the right tools, make sure they know how a data management plan works, etc., etc. So, how do we support open data? Don't expect you to read this, even if we had more time. The point is, there's a lot of ticks on this slide, which means we do a lot of good things that hopefully people will be looking for in a system. We are also compliant with the Generalist Repository Ecosystem Initiative, or GREY. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's an initiative that the NIH has been undertaking to make sure that repositories, it's kind of a standard for repositories, and making sure that people understand what needs to happen for things to be good, basically. And here's another flowchart just showing you the other options. So instead of starting with elements, you can start with Figshare, and you can do a similar process but still end up back in elements. And last slide really is that we have a range of integrations available. So we do have an open API that people can use to integrate with their own software tools as we want to. There are some obviously big ones here, but another one I should mention that comes up a lot, particularly in Australia, is Redbox. So we do, if anyone is using that to think about their data management, we do have a client who is starting to look at how they integrate that. So hopefully next year we might be able to talk about how that's worked out for them, or encourage them to come and speak on it. So that's it. Obviously, I am the first digital science speaker that you'll be hearing today, first of three. So we're all in the booth by the tea and coffee and next to ARDC. So when you go to see them, you can come and see us and find out more if you're interested. Thanks very much.